the biggest spread of the Mughal cuisine in the court of. That is, we get the.
No, but before we come to Bazme Akhir, that every time I read her volume, The Kissa of Rampur Khana and Kissas, I find so much material which is more meticulously researched than I have done.
Indians eat very hot food. They are not talking of the temperature. They are talking of the burning sensation that most of Indian food causes on your tongue. Especially to those who are not familiar with cooking. Because I personally feel I might find very biased. I believe there are very few countries in the world who know how to cook.
I know there are wonderful authors out there who kind of plumb the depths of humanity and, some really dark places. What I have always loved doing is to create a space and fill it with my favorite thing.
A lot of people asked me who's going to read this, who's interested in the rural hinterlands, who's interested in Kanpur. And I said, well, I am as a writer. So I went ahead and wrote this series called Kanpur Khufia Private Limited.
You know that when somebody places a comment, like leaves a comment or a like on Instagram, there is going to be some sort of discussion in WhatsApp groups about it. There is definitely going to be some sort of conversation, some sort of drama. Why did she like her picture when she spoke bad about her? Something or the other is going to happen.
He may have been silently in the background, but the cogs of the wheel, as they say, or connecting the dots, as you say. But he gave away a lot, starting from the age of 17 when he was first arrested.
At the time of partition, everything was lost. All newspapers, all documents, the house, the car, the prestige, the office, everything was lost. They started anew. Ours is not the only family. There are thousands and lakhs of families who started anew. So getting material from that side was impossible. So we started with whatever we had.
I was caught in a whirlpool of Rashid's poetry and his nazms. At the same time, Rashid का काम बहुत ज़्यादा पब्लिक डोमेन में नहीं है, बहुत पॉपुलर शायर नहीं है. तो राशिद के टक्कर का जो शायर था दूसरा, वो फैज़ अहमद फैज़ था. फैज़ को तो सभी जानते हैं, राशिद का नाम कम लोग जानते हैं, कम लोगों की राशिद के काम से वाकफियत है.
Speaking one language or two languages or three languages doesn't make him necessarily restricted to one thing. I think that somehow and this is not a problem unique to India, to be clear. Across the subcontinent, we have this tendency to insist that the people of the past were somehow less complex than us. They could only be one thing. They had to be good or they had to be bad. They had to be Hindu or they had to be Muslim. And I just find that to be profoundly reductive, because just as we are multiple things to multiple people, just as we have this inherent ability to inhabit multiple identities, so did the people of the past. And I think that it's profoundly reductive to try and, it's almost violent in a sense, to try and force them into these very modern and simplistic identities.
So as he mentions, Abhay, the restrictions, the restrictiveness of it all, how does that play out from the past into the present?
Well, all past actually is an interpretation, of the present. I mean, we always interpolate the way we are today to both past and actually future.
Yeah, well said.
So if you see the science fiction movies, you will exactly find everything as it is today, being projected in the future as well. So in the same way, past is actually never past. It's not. Yes.
Past is never dead. It's not even past.
Exactly.
That's the quote.
That's the quote.
Prime Minister Modi used a Sengol, this kind of royal scepter from Tamil Nadu, golden scepter, to inaugurate the parliament building. No? Yeah? Yes? One gentleman remembers. Great. Now, the cover of this book, if you don't mind, Sumit, let me just... The cover of this book is what a Chola period Sengol would have looked like. The problem is that there aren't any actual surviving Chola period Sengals. I'm writing out a period that's 1,000 years ago. Not a lot of evidence survives from this time.
Kargil as a terrain, the topography, the physiological and psychological challenges which one faces when they are deputed, posted in Kargil, and what happens in such a terrain, sir?
There's a very famous saying in Leh and Kargil that don't be a Gama in the land of Lama. It's a land of Lamas. There are mostly Lamas there. And because it's the even Gama, even Pelwan, some people may not know who Gama was, a great wrestler of your period, your time. They say even if he comes here, he has to get used to climate here before he can use his strength.
You learn algebra or algorithm or sine functions. They all come from Nalanda. So that's how these, the Indian numbers, 0 particularly, and the mathematics travels to the West. By 12th century, before 12th century, how Europe is doing calculations, do you know? They are calculating X, the Roman numbers, they are using Roman numbers. So the whole accounting is being done in Europe with these Roman numbers, there is no 0 there. So there is, only in 11th, 12th century, 0 is introduced in Europe. And Indian numbers get introduced in Europe.
Doing something different from what you usually do.
Says that if any of your children ever have a problem, there are people that are listening to you. And after this book came out, a lot of children actually got in touch with me privately on Instagram and said, thank you for writing this book. These children were from 12, 13, till in their 20s. And some of them said, look, can you help us? Because, when we say we have a problem at home, our parents are not listening. So I should have been saying this later, but I just want to say that if you ever have a problem and you think no one's listening at home, find yourself a mentor, find yourself somebody else. It just doesn't always have to be a teacher, but don't keep quiet.
This is my personal connection with what a literature festival can do to somebody who's watching an author or listening to an author speak right before them. You take this example, a new song is released. You listen to that song on radio or perhaps on a recorded medium. You don't instantly connect with that song. But you come back home or go to a friend's place and somebody sings that song to you. You listen to them sing that song and you connect to it. Then you go back and listen to the recorded song. The kind of feelings that song will invoke in you would be very different from what it did when you heard the song for the first time. That's one. Now imagine what if that singer is before you and he has sung that song. Yeah. So there is a huge difference between getting connected to something through an impersonal medium like a screen or listening to somebody live. So festivals create that kind of an environment.